Hey everybody, I'm going to do a few videos this week about the new M1, just doing some of what I call my standard tests of things. And this one is a test where I just dump in the first 100 Apple loops that are all instrument MIDI based, so no audio files. And I just literally dumped them out. Number one, I'll do this in a minute so you can see it, but it loaded incredibly fast. I mean, we're talking really quick. On top of the instruments, which some of them are sampled and some of them are actually duplicate, which Logic, I believe for the most part, is smart enough to reuse samples instead of just loading all of them independently. So that may give it a little bit of an edge. But in addition to using those, all of them come with effects for the most part. I don't see any that don't. It's like there's a rule. If you make a new instrument, you have to add some effects, even if some of them are deactivated. And so these all come with that. Many of them, but not all, have buses. So we're dealing with 3 chroma verbs as well, just due to pulling this out. And then I push play. What we have for our preferences, just so you know, I did max out the I/O buffer size, and I turned on multi-threading just for playback of tracks. And I set the processing threads to 8 with 4 high-performance cores. Keep in mind that this is the 8 gigs of RAM version of the Mac Mini. And I'm really interested in that particular model for a lot of these tests because this is the most affordable of the new M1s. And there's a lot of interesting things. So I just drug them all out and looped them. And then I'm going to push play. You might hear just a little bit through my headphones, but I don't have the sound turned on to record just because I want... Ooh, it looks like it's zoom output. I want to set... Okay, so I'm going to change this. Well, I'll leave it like that. That is a multi-output device that I use when I'm teaching in Zoom, but it shouldn't actually affect this test. Here we go and push play. Here's the performance meter right now with 100 tracks just sitting idle. It's hovering close to 50%, but here we go. Oh, push play right off the bat, and it did give me that spike the first time. Okay, so now it's playing. There's one here. I'm sure that's probably some of the alchemies that are all just on one thread for some reason. But I'm going to open that up. I'm going to close my loops. I'm going to scroll. Let's do something stupid here. Well, we can open up as many of these as we want. You'll see they all pop right up. They're very responsive. All the meters are responsive. Push stop, it's responsive. I mean, that's pretty darn responsive. Let's just come down. Let's see how many got 305. I don't want that many for sure. So 55, 49, let's do 50 more. So we're just going to drag out 50 more of these loops, which load in instruments and effects. And we'll loop everything. And let's just see if we can even get it to play like that. So it did hit a buffer when I started doing some stuff here. Still, it's that one spike that's sending us. We're hitting about 75 across the board. And that's 150 instruments. Like I said, some potentially duplicated. Most of them with at least 2, if not more, effects all loaded in. And this thing is just responsive as all get out. Not all of these are sample based, but many of them certainly are. And so, we have, like for instance, some of these are not as much, but we have a number of different sampler instruments loaded for sure, the Steinway. And with these ones, for instance, quite a few. Well, those don't look too intense. We're not in all of them there, but we do have a lot of different things happening here and a lot of different instruments. And that thing just hits play like nobody's business. So, let me show you one other thing here. Here's the memory in our activity monitor. It says 6.76 gigabytes, but if we go to the more information here, you're going to see the real memory size is 1.3. The virtual memory is 408 gigabytes. Shared memory size is 68 megabytes. And private memory size. We'd actually need someone who's an expert in this to explain all of this, but I do think it's interesting, the real memory size versus the virtual memory size. We're running 150 different instruments, and imagine if you were using the 16 gigabyte version of the 16 gigabytes of RAM version of this. But even without it, we are flying through all of this MIDI data, and I'm not having to freeze tracks. I'm not having to turn things off. It's really, really cooking here, and I have zero concerns about being able to run large sessions in here. We're talking, this is pretty massive. Not a perfect test, but certainly an interesting one. Let's pull this down for a minute, and I want to do one more test while I'm here. This will show you potentially one of Logic's most annoying things, or most powerful things, but we're going to freeze these tracks. I just clicked on them all. We're going to push spacebar. And now it's going to freeze them. Yeah. It's essentially going to use one thread to freeze them all, like the One Ring. Okay, so 150 tracks here, freezing them with all the effects. And it's going to take a nice little minute here. So I don't know how much we want to wait through this, but I'm going to pause for a second and then I'll push play after it's all done. So I decided to make it even smaller just because they're loops. It's not like the exercise was showing how I can freeze things for a long period of time. But now these are all frozen. And plays great. We knew that that was going to happen though. In terms of freezing, pre-fade is what we have selected. But you'll notice with this, it went down from 6 to 4 gigabytes total, even though everything is frozen. And you can't think about this in the same way as you would with the previous Mac, and you probably have heard that from a number of different places, but I'm telling you, this Logic, even though it's on the 8 GB version of RAM. As long as it's the only thing running, which is how you should probably do it most of the time anyway, it is able to efficiently use everything and run all of these instruments. The next test I want to do is with a third-party orchestral bank, which isn't 100% Big Sur silicon ready, but it's working. And so I want to test it now before they do the update, and then maybe do one more after they do the update for the silicon version. No matter what, this computer is a game changer for audio production. There's just no way around it. I mean, we're doing things here unfrozen with a mediocre at best audio interface, and it's really impressive. Not only can it handle all of this stuff I threw at it, but on top of that, it still is responsive, and the pages are still loading, and I can still move around, and it's not feeling sluggish even when it's on the verge of breaking it. In the old Logic, it certainly would have felt like it was breaking long before it stopped. Okay, that's it for this. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll be doing a few more like this, but I think this is super promising. And keep in mind that this is the $699 version of this computer. And if you're a student, it's like $650 or something. I mean, we're talking incredible power at a very affordable price. Okay, let's move on.